Hey guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here with what I'm affectionately dubbing a series called Storycraft, where I will tell you a story while you watch me craft, and hopefully it will be a delight for the eyes and the ears. Who knows, this could go off the rail pretty quickly, but I thought that this would be fun. I have been wanting to tell stories and I've been asking for requests, so once again, if you have a story you would like to hear, let me know because I would love to tell you. Um, but yeah, I've been wanting to tell some stories to you guys, and I think I'm going to keep it pretty open so that we can cover a wide range of stories from creepypastas to like folk tales and I don't know, children's stories, scary stories, mythology, anything I can think of. We're telling those stories if I can get to them. Definitely want to talk some more about cryptids and do some fun things there, and just have fun. And this way you don't have to listen to me awkwardly have like an existential crisis while I'm crafting, because that's clearly the only thing I can think of to talk about if I do like live craft with me. So we're not going to do that. We're going to jump in to a story. And the first story I have for you guys for this series, I'm so excited, is the request that I got from my friend April. Thanks, April. Thanks, buddy. She wanted to hear the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. So, let's jump into it. Um, I wasn't sure which version of Jack and the Beanstalk to do, so we're gonna get sort of my own personal retelling, which is like an amalgamation of the many versions of Jack and the Beanstalk I'm familiar with, or have looked up specifically for this. Um, I will say right now, as like a disclaimer, the stories that I'm going to tell in this series, you may have heard a different version. You might have like a different cultural understanding for what I am like telling, and that is totally fine and valid. You may have heard the story passed down from your great auntie, like Sue, and that's cool. Sue tells great stories, I get it. But this is my version. So I'm going to tell my version of the story based on the things that I know and have read, with my own like personal flair added to it. And that's cool because it's my channel. If you have a version of the story that you would like to share respectfully without like coming to harass me in the comments because it's not the version you knew growing up, please share it. Absolutely would love to hear like the different variations that you grew up with from your cultures, things like that. I would love to hear it, your own personal opinions and your takeaways. Leave those in the comments below. I would love to see different aspects of the story I'm about to tell you guys. This is just a disclaimer because I don't really want to deal with the people trying to tell me that I'm wrong, because I'm telling you my version of the story that I took from a bunch of other versions of this story. And you have to understand, a lot of these stories are originating in oral folklore and like tradition. Like this a lot of oral storytelling that gets like passed down over time. So the versions change, and then depending on where the story goes, the version changes again. All right, so obligatory disclaimer aside, we're going to do the actual jumping that I said that we were doing earlier. We're jumping into it. Um, our story begins like most stories begin. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, there was a widow and her no good, lousy, useless, totally lame son, Jack. The widow is never named, so that didn't pass the Bechdel test. But Jack is, and I've seen a lot of different versions where he goes from anywhere from being like a small boy to like a fully grown adult man living at home in his mother's basement. Like JK, not really, but kind of. Um, so we're gonna go for somewhere in between there for my version of the story, because I'm pretty confident in Jack being at least of a marrying age, and you'll see why as the story goes on. So the widow and her son Jack live in utter poverty. Okay, so they only have one goose, one cow, and like this little tiny hovel and a farm that barely produces anything for them to survive on. Like they're scrimping and scraping to get by. The widow is working very hard to support Jack and, keep them both alive in this like medieval hellscape that they're apparently living in. And, it gets so bad that, the widow starts to get frustrated with her situation. She knows that Jack is like a good for nothing kind of lousy boy, as evidenced by the fact that he can't complete a single task successfully. So, she tries to send him out for wood because they need a warm house. He goes and takes a nap in the forest. She sends him to the market to buy a rake so they can get some work done. He just gets himself some cake and has like some sweeties because, they're starving. So why would they need to work for a living? This guy is just the worst. The biggest affront, which should have been like the largest red flag his mother had ever seen, was when she decides that, the goose isn't laying like it's supposed to. So they're going to sell it to see if they can make some money off of that. So she can put that back into the farm and maybe get them off, the ground and out of the utter poverty that they're living in. And I don't know, he does something bro-ish and like invest in Bitcoin or something like that. Like it doesn't return the way that she thinks. She gets nothing for it. um Basically he just squanders the money he gets from this goose and wastes that time. So all of this like is happening, and none of these red flags were clearly red flag enough for his mother, because she decides, you know what, you messed up with the wood, you messed up with the rake, you messed up with the goose. Like, we only have a cow left, Jack, and the cow also isn't producing any milk. So take it to town, sell it to someone, sell it to the butcher at least, so that we can make some money and, we can buy food and survive the harsh winters and stuff here. So Jack's like, don't worry, Mom. I got this. You can trust me. I've never messed up a day in my life. I am your sweet angel baby. Clearly gaslighting the hell out of his mom. Um, and she sends him off to the market with their only cow. Keep in mind, they no longer have a goose. So this cow is like the only other source of food that they could potentially have. And she's selling it so that they can make just a little bit to get by, because the meat of the cow is going to run out. So Jack understands how important this is, and he goes off to town to sell this cow, and he tells himself, I am going to sell this cow and make my mother proud of me. I'm not going to mess up and get distracted or give into all of my ADHD like impulses. I am going to sell this cow and be a good boy for once in my dang life. And my mom's going to be so proud of me. We're going to make it through the winter. And she's going to be like, Jack, you're amazing. You're wonderful. And he's thinking all these thoughts as he heads down the road when he bumps into this strange little dude. In some versions, this little dude is a little bit anti-Semitic. Not in my story, though. It's just a little old man, okay? So he runs into this dude, and he's like, hey, how's it going, good sir? I'm on my way to market to sell this cow. And the little guy is like, how interesting. I would love to buy your cow. I'm a total stranger to you. You've never seen me in your small village before. Clearly, I'm just a traveler passing through. I have no personal possessions of my own, but what I'm carrying on my back and in my pockets. But I would love to buy your cow. And Jack's like, oh, well, it doesn't actually produce milk. It's just a cow now. And the guy's like, great, perfect, exactly what I want. I want a milkless cow. Don't even question me on this. I would love to buy your cow. And Jack's like, great, cool. I am an excellent businessman. What will you give me for this? And this old man says, well, I don't have much, to be honest. Because as you can see, I'm just like a poor little traveler. And I only got this little pack on my back and what's in my pockets. But in my pockets, I have these beans. And Jack's like, I've seen beans. Those are definitely beans. Why would I sell my cow for beans? And so the old man's like, boy, don't question the elderly, okay? First of all, these aren't just any old beans. They're magic beans. And Jack's like, say less. I don't even need to hear the whole pitch. Sold. Sold, sold, sold. Take this cow, get it out of my sight. Give me those beans. I'm getting the deal of a lifetime. My mom is going to be so proud of me. So proud. When I bring these magic beans home, I'm not even going to ask what they do because they're magic. Clearly, that's all I need to know. No explanation needed. So Jack gives the man this cow. The man jumps on the cow and rides it away because he was tired of walking. And Jack strolls on home thinking about how, he can do no wrong. He's clearly the smartest smart boy to ever smarted. And he's going to sell, like, his mom on the fact that he just made a steal with these magic beans. So Jack gets home and he shows his mom what he bought with the cow. And his mom, surprisingly, wasn't very happy that he gave up their only source of food and nourishment and all those things that they need, the quintessentials, the small little cash flow they could have had, for beans. And not even like good beans. We're talking like hard, needs to be rehydrated in water, totally dried out. These beans are wannabe seeds, like those kind of beans, like not like a bowl of like nice black beans or something from a restaurant. No, these are just gross hard beans. And she gets so mad that she slaps them out of his hand and sweeps them out of the house and tells him he's such a dumb boy that he gets nothing for dinner. Not that they had much anyways. So I'm pretty sure she ate his half because I would do that too if I was a parent. And so she sends him to bed and he's like, oh man, I don't know why she's so mad. I thought I was getting such a good deal. And here's where I'm going to just do like a small aside because this is going to be relevant later. And I probably should have started the story with this. But the reason why Jack's mother is a widow in the first place is never explicitly stated, although heavily implied. And a lot of this comes from like Jack's admiration of his father, who is clearly gone at this point in the story. And he sort of reminisces on all these wonderful things that his father had, like a hen that lays golden eggs and a golden harp. And he's like, my dad had all these cool magical things, and then one day he was gone, and all of his cool things were gone, and now we're here and we're struggling. And so I think this is probably part of the motivation for why Jack, like, so desperately wanted to trade this cow for these beans, because he was like, maybe I'll get a little bit of this magic back. Maybe I'll be like my dad, boys and their daddy issues, like that kind of thing. So maybe we'll give Jack, like, the benefit of the doubt and like the child inside, because he's not a child in this story. He's clearly not. Like, just was really called by the magical potential of these beans. But back to the current timeline, Jack doesn't know what these beans do, so he made the worst business decision on the face of the planet, didn't even let the old man explain it to him, and now he has to go to bed hungry. And over the course of the night, it rains. And when he wakes up in the morning, him and his mom walk outside to see that there is a giant beanstalk stretching high up into the clouds, right where his mother knocked the magic beans, out the house. And he's like so proud of himself because he's like, look at that. Look at that. I told you they were magic. You didn't believe me. And now there's a giant beanstalk right in front of our door. Like, we're never going to go hungry again. In fact, because I am the goodest smart boy to ever smart, I'm going to climb this beanstalk and I'm going to go get some beans for us so that we can have, like, I don't know, a hot bean dish for breakfast. And his mom, like, she has no words. She's actually, like, absolutely flabbergasted by what she's seeing. Also, by the dumb things her son is spewing, because who the hell wants beans for breakfast? Unless you're British. I'm sorry, Britain, but it's weird to me. I'm American. We only eat sugar and, like, soda and maybe crack cocaine for breakfast. I'm probably going to get demonetized for that. Who cares? It's fine. So, Jack shimmies his way up this beanstalk, under the guise of getting beans for breakfast, because he passes all the beans, and he just continues to climb high up into the sky, because now it's like, well, I gotta see what's at the top of the beanstalk, clearly. And when he gets to the top of the beanstalk, he's in the clouds, right? Like, he's in this cloud land, and it's not just, like, puffy clouds. Now there's like a whole kingdom on top of the sky, like way up here, that nobody really talks about, and it's not really explained. Like, is it a floating castle situation? I don't know. There's a whole kingdom up there. Jack finds it in the clouds, and he's not like surprised because he's a smart boy. No questions. There's a castle up here. Everything is gigantic. Like, the grass is coming up to his waist. Um, like, the birds are flying, and they are huge above him. He's like in a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids situation and doesn't know it, because he just strolls on through the grass right up to the castle. He has to, like, physically climb, arms and legs, like, shimmy up these steps to get to the door. No questions. Not, like, any sense of danger. And he goes up to the door, and when he gets to the door, he sees that there is a woman there, a large woman, but not particularly giant, and we'll get to that. But a large woman is there, taller than him, and she's outside just, like, relaxing, a little bit mopey looking, and he's like, hey, what's up? What's going on? What is this place? And she's like, oh, this is my master's castle. I'm a maid here. He's a giant. He's a great, terrible giant. And he's kind of mean to me, so I just came outside on my break to, like, sulk about it. And Jack's like, cool. Can you invite me inside so I can have some food? I'm actually pretty hungry. And she's like, all right, no questions. That sounds like a great idea. Strange little boy, I would love to bring you inside this house. I did just tell you that my master was a terrible giant, and you clearly have no questions about it, so, come on in. And, maybe you should know he eats people. And Jack's like, it's okay, I'm just here for the meal. And he's like, and the maid's like, cool, great, come on in. So she lets him in, and she makes him something to eat. I can't imagine it was very much, like a grape or something, because everything is gigantic here. But, while they're there, she has to put, like, this big meal in the oven, get it ready for her master to come home. And then he hears it, this big thundering, booming sound. It's actually the footsteps of the giant, the master of the home, coming home from whatever the heck he was doing, like, caroling. It's Christmas. We'll say he's caroling. So he gets home, and this giant bursts into the kitchen, and the maid has just a couple of seconds of time to, like, drop Jack into a copper pot to hide. And when the giant gets in there, he says, fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Whether he be alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. Iconic. Like, I want to walk into a room with an entire paragraph to, like, spit every time I show up. Like, hey, I'm here. I have things to do. I need to work on that, but I'm going to start working on that because clearly this giant is an icon. And, you know, she's like, oh, you must be mistaken. There's no Englishman here. Like, it's just this dinner that I'm making you. And the giant's, like, a little skeptical, but he's like, okay, all right, sure. Let me see this dinner then. And the dinner is like 6 roasted pigs. She brings that out. She sets it before him. He just goes to town, and he's eating and having a grand old time by himself, eating all these pigs. And she's like a little bit nervous, like looking at this pot, trying not to be too conspicuous, but she's like, fuck, what do I do? And the giant goes, maid, bring me my hen. And she's like, okay. And he's like, I want to have some eggs. And she's like, great. So she rushes off as quick as she can because she knows that Jack is in the pot and she doesn't want to leave him unattended for too long. So she rushes off. She comes back with this hen. She sets the hen before the giant, and the giant tells it to lay. And so the hen does. And it lays these golden eggs. And from the little, like, crack in the pot lid, Jack has been watching everything. And he's like, well, that's my dad's hen that lays the golden eggs. This giant has it. And during the course of, like, this meal, the giant is, like, throwing back these golden eggs, eating his pigs, drinking up his wine, and then he gets sleepy because he's gorged himself like a fatty Fatterson and falls asleep at the table, perfectly content with life, which Honestly, goals, right? And when he gets done, like, eating and passes out, Jack crawls out of the pot, rushes over to the table. Don't ask me how, because it's a giant's table and he's a tiny man. But he snatches up the hen and then takes off at a run. Doesn't even like thank the maid. He just like skedaddles on out of there and starts to rush back towards the beanstalk. And at this point, the hen, who's clearly like not chill with just being snatched up like that, because if you've ever seen a chicken in life, like they're not cool like that. The hen, lets out some noises, and the giant wakes up and he's like, somebody stole my hen, and he's losing his shit. The maid's like dipped. She's out of there. She's not in the situation anymore. Not responsible. Jack shimmies down the beanstalk and he's gone out of sight. The giant doesn't really know where this guy went because he was sleeping. He was hella sleeping. So Jack gets down to the bottom of the beanstalk, shows his mom the hen, tells the hen to lay. It lays golden eggs. She's like, oh my God, with these golden eggs, we can fix our whole life situation. And he's like, yes, but this hen belongs to my father. And she's like, sure, yeah, yeah. I don't care because we're poor. I didn't think the hen was magical when your father had it. I definitely don't think that this is the same hen because it's been quite some time since your father's here. I don't care. We're going to take all these golden eggs to the bank. And that's exactly what she does, which, like, more power to you. She does that. It completely reverses their fortune. So they are no longer the poorest of the poor people. They are now living in high style and class because they have this endless supply of gold from this poor hen who's probably like, guys, can I get like a break? Like, now that you have everything you want, could I just maybe chill for a couple of days? Laying is not easy. And, stuff kind of goes on like that for a while. Jack is like eyeballing the beanstalk though, because he's like, well, if this giant had my father's hen, then maybe he has my father's harp. And his mom is like all about her own business. She doesn't care about Jack anymore because Jack has finally done something right. And she's going to ride that all the way to the bank, which she clearly did, and then all the way back again. So Jack can't get past the fact that this giant had something his dad possesses. So he goes back up the beanstalk and back up to the giant's castle. And, he gets up to the door again, and there's the maid. And he's like, hey, remember me? And she's like, yeah, actually, I do remember you. I got kind of whipped for all those shenanigans because I let an Englishman in the house. And Jack's like, cool. Can I come inside and have something to eat? And she's like, yeah, cool. I'm also a smart girl, and I have no questions. So she lets Jack back inside, makes him some more food to eat. She tells him again, like, the giant's gonna be super mad because the last time you were here, you stole his hen, and, like, that's not cool. You got me in trouble too, bro. And Jack is just like, yeah, So anyways, I think the hen was my dad's. And she's like, yeah, it probably was. I think the giant probably lured your dad up here and killed him and stole his stuff. And Jack's like, yeah, that's what I thought. That's totally what I thought. That's what I was thinking. I'm glad we were both thinking the same thing. And she was like, yeah, me too. I feel like we have such a connection. And Jack was like, right. So then, she makes Jack his food. He eats his little meal. He hears the giant come home. He runs into the giant's bedroom, hides under the bed, which, like, it's a giant bed. I don't know how far back he got under there because he would just look like dust on the floor, like a little crumpled up piece of paper or something. I don't know the logistics of this. Maybe the giant has a bed skirt. But at any rate, he hides underneath his bed. The giant has his meal, dismisses the maid for the evening, goes to his room, remembers that, oh yeah, I actually need that maid. So he calls her back and he's like, bring me my harp. I need to rest. And so she's like, okay, yeah, no problem. I was going to take my night off, but you told me to come back. Here we are. So she goes and she gets the harp. She brings it in there. The giant lays down on his bed. He tells the harp to sing, and the harp does. It plays beautiful music. And very quickly, the giant drifts off to sleep. And Jack is like, that is my dad's harp. I remember what it looked like. It was probably magical. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember if my dad, told it to sing and it actually sang, but I feel like that harp belongs to me. There's only one harp in the world. So he snatches up this harp, which, like, Every time I hear about this harp, I think about like the giant like floor harps that people have to like lean on their body to play. And I don't think that this is the same kind of harp. I think this is like a smaller instrument, like a lyre maybe. Um, but he snatches up this harp and he starts taking off. But this harp is on some trader aid because it immediately, the second he touches it, starts like playing discordant notes and screaming for help, essentially in harp language. And the giant wakes up immediately and he's like, fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Whether he be alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. And as an aside, like, I guess anything is flour if you try hard enough. But again, an icon. No questions. He woke up out of bed and was ready to spit lines. Like, this guy is cool. The giant, we're fans. And Jack takes off at a run. The giant's like, you're the one who stole my hen. I remember your scent. And he takes off after Jack. And now he's got Jack in his eye line. And apparently Jack is the fastest, like, little MFer that has ever existed because he manages to stay ahead of the giant the entire way. He makes it back to the beanstalk, shimmies down, and, the giant starts coming after him. He grabs his axe. He's crawling down. As Jack is, like, coming down the beanstalk, he goes and he's, like, shouting at his mom to grab his own axe. And his mom, who apparently in her very fancy mansion has no questions whatsoever, also has amazing hearing. So, like, this family is superhuman. She's like, I hear my son from the heavens shouting at me to get a weapon. No questions. I'm going to get this weapon to my son. So she rushes outside with the axe. Jack makes it down the beanstalk before the giant is even like halfway. And he chops the entirety of this giant beanstalk down like he's in a logging competition within a matter of seconds. Like, probably a minute. But I don't know how carefully this giant was coming down the beanstalk, but clearly the giant was taking his time. He chops the beanstalk down. The beanstalk crashes to the earth, and the giant crashes down with it and dies. Rest in peace, King. And at the end of it, Jack is like, look, Mom, I got this harp. It plays music on its own. We will never, like, need or want for anything ever again. And, we can sell tickets to the harp, I guess. I don't really understand that motivation. You have the hen. That's all you needed. And his mom's like, oh, man, you were right. Those are your father's things. I should have believed you in the first place. My boy is the best boy. You weren't a shitty kid for the entirety of your life up until this point. No, you've always been excellent, and we are happy, and everything is going to be great. Yada, 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 the end. They live happily ever after. Now, the reason that I mentioned that Jack is probably of marrying age is because that there is a version of this where when Jack gets up to the Sky City, he meets a fairy who's kind of more of an angel in my, like, perspective, my modern perspective, I guess. But in this version of the story, she's a fairy, and she makes a deal with him to tell him about his dad and, like, what happened to his dad. If he follows her instructions exactly. And her only instruction is you have to kill the giant. So, like, sure. Not the hardest instructions. I thought she'd have more of a detailed plan for him. She didn't. She was just like, you have to kill the giant. And after he retrieves the hen, she tells him, like, hey, your dad was tricked by the giant and killed, and the giant stole his riches. And, those riches were, in this version, a golden goose and the singing harp, which is a giant screaming snitch. And when he comes back up to get the harp, then she's like, cool, you're doing exactly what you were told to do. After this, you're going to kill the giant. And he does. And then she's like, great job. You followed all of my instructions. My single one instruction, you followed it to the letter. And in return, I'm going to let you marry the maid, which in some versions is the giant's wife. But in the version of this story and the one that I chose is just the maid because, like, I don't think the giant got married. He was always sniffing out Englishmen, and that to me seems like enough subtext. king. But yeah, so the fairy like offers up the maid who clearly had no choice in the matter and is like, you can marry this maid happily ever after, the end. So for as far as my story goes, we'll like postscript end credits it. I think the maid somehow manages to make her way down. Maybe after she dropped off the harp, she knew like shit was gonna go down because she let Jack in the house. So she snuck out and made it down the beanstalk before all the shenanigans happened. And when she gets down there, she's a regular person again because she isn't living in Giant World. And she's like, hey, we're both smart people, remember? And Jack's like, totally, we are smart people. And she's like, you know what smart people do? They get married. And Jack's like, you're right. You're absolutely right. And his mom's like, thank God, take this boy out of my house. I am so tired of him. Even though he managed to redeem himself at the end, I am so tired of this walking red flag. It is your problem now. You are married. I am a priest. This is over. Like, done. And that's the end. The end. But yeah, that was my version of Jack the Beanstalk. I did learn some more interesting things about this. The most like common tellings of this story tend to originate from the 1800s to the 1700s. Like in that phrase, there's a couple of different published books by a couple of various authors. There's also a Grimm's Brothers version of it, which is the version that I'm the most familiar with. But there's a lot of evidence to suggest that this story might actually be 5,000 years old, like starting in the Bronze Age. And there's been like some variation of like boy goes up and steals a giant's treasure in the clouds and comes back down to earth, like for 5,000 years, and has been retold so much. And it's so old that like the languages it originated in don't exist anymore. Like they're totally dead languages, which is amazing to me. I never would have guessed that Jack the Beanstalk was that old. Like I would have given it 1800s, maybe 1700s, maybe 16 because, you know, like oral tradition, but 5,000 years old. You guys, like, whoa, that's big. That's big. So yeah, that's Jack and the Beanstalk. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this telling. I need to learn how to make my stories maybe a little more succinct, but I had a lot of fun telling this story to you guys. I'm really looking forward to telling more stories for you guys. And basically, yeah, if you would like to hear another story or my version of it, let me know in the comments below. I would love to tell it, and I will keep crafting so we can keep telling stories. And until next time, you guys, happy crafting. I appreciate your faces if you made it to the end of the video. Bye!